I guess, yeah.
I actually can set it up to do it automatically, but for some reason I don't do that.
Well, I guess some people probably don't want their stuff recorded that. But,
What's new?
oh man, this week was a heavy one, Bill.
Really?
Yeah. So before, and I started writing on the board. Uh, I'm back downstairs, by the way. So it's a interesting time. Kids are now fully out of school, and I was upstairs in my office, and now I'm downstairs in the basement. And so I'm back to my, having a whiteboard,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, but before we get to the heaviness, closed a client. It was a referral from one of our existing clients, and that was fun. And what was really cool about it was Shay, yeah, Shay and I got on one call, and then after that, I did everything else and closed the deal. And that was kind of like the first time that's happened. So that was nice for the ego to be like, oh yeah,
What
like I don't need
what
Shay.
was what was different in the way you handled this client based on all of our conversations about that?
I just followed the energy. Like these clients, I mean, I'm very fortunate that it was a strong referral and they wanted to go fast. And so I just mirrored and matched. I kept
Uh-huh.
everyone up to speed on the team. And yeah, I didn't had to say anything. I think it was attraction more than anything and just following the energy of what they desired is how I'd wrap that up.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, because
it's,
we talked a lot about how you bring them on and you know, where they're where they're at as far as their quality and being able to be satisfied in the system.
yeah, they're very, you try to look for like signals and things. And so there's a couple, like if I look at texting code, who's been our best client, these are guys that are jumping in the trenches. They're challenging us. And, I kind of use that bar because we've had the best results with it. And so they're like in measuring other clients against that. Uh, that's what I do. And so in this case, they don't have the exact makeup, meaning that like there's a really strong CEO who wants to go fast. He's well funded. He's very smart. There's a CMO who's like running marketing for four different companies. So that's a little, I won't say concerning, but that's why they're bringing us in is like he's just got so much going on. And then there's a strong like COO of this company brand, you will. And so, you know, I think there's a good team there. What'll really tell us a lot is like, if things don't go a certain way, how do they respond? How do we work together as a group? And so I want to make sure we have that cohesiveness there. Um, Everything else looks pretty darn good about this client.
Cool.
So I
What,
like that. So yeah. Um, so that was this week. Um, the reason why stuff was heavy is like, we've lost a lot of teams. You know? And
you,
one,
you're a little you're not quite loud enough.
oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's
Better?
a little better.
Okay. For now, I'm across the street. Uh, all right, that was close. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So, um, yeah, so we've lost some team members. So yesterday, there's a couple things going on. So we're bringing this client on, and we didn't have like a clear define who's going to be our account strategist for this client. And so, um, we were talking yesterday, trying to figure it out. And right before that had happened, a guy resigned, kind of complicating things. And man, there's so many facets to this, but the heaviness is it's like all these things are kind of coming at us all at once. And it feels like hard work, like against the flow is what I would say. So we've got some people that, from Argentina that are resigning. This guy, he resigned. He gave us some good feedback. But what we think happened and what we think is happening is that MFM, the client that he works for under us, hired him. And so they're paying him more, but essentially they're like stealing him from us, which is weird. So Joe and Shay are going to talk to MFM about it. And we think, do you know Imran? Do you remember him? Did you ever meet him?
God, that sounds really familiar.
He was way before your time at Speaking Empire. So he used to work for me. He worked for us at Media O. We let him go. Maybe that's why it's ringing a bell. I probably talked about him. And then MFM ended up hiring him. Like we let him go. For a year he was out on his own, and then MFM found him and hired him, which is their right to do. But they didn't come and talk to us. So that's fine. So then this happened, and it's like, gosh, at least not ask us, and the paper, we have such old paperwork, Bill, that there's no non-solicit language in there, because this was one of Medio's first clients, so the contract is in there. So anyway, it's that's hitting. WealthFit continues to be a slog, and personally, my energy is I don't really even want to spend any more time on WealthFit. And I'm trying to maintain my, I'm following the energy. It's been a slog. I've asked our copywriter to help me with helping with retooling the offer, but every week it gets pushed back because it's, clients are paying. And so I just feel
you're stuck with it.
Now it feels like a stuck kind of energy. And I try to get myself excited by thinking of we do that Lee Arnold deal, we could, reinvent WealthFit with that. If we find an offer. So, I reached out to that partner. He's been traveling. He's been busy. I got to stay. I just the energy seems to be flowing against the grain there. So, and then also too, just to kind of get it all out, I've got a new project manager starting. So I don't feel as supported as when Victoria was here. So I wrote it on the board, Bill, and it all just kind of looked silly to me. I mean, this is business, right?
Interesting, yeah.
This is life, right? But I try to say, gosh, I try not to make it mean stuff, but I try to find the sign, the path, man, this all just seems so damn heavy. And a mantra theme as of late has been reduce, less is more, kind of that thing. How do I reduce? How do I get back to
from what you've said, I don't know if this is correct or not, but it sounds like there's resistance because these are all executionable items.
Yeah. So there was resistance from me taking a path.
Well, the heaviness. In other words, with the people leaving and such, you're required to execute more things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what all of these are? It sounds like it.
Let me think. Is the execution?
There's, I mean, with WealthFit, there's some, there's creation and things that need to be done, but you've got yourself isolated with it and need to execute on it because you can't get the copywriter to help you. Your project manager's not here. It means you've got to do more. The guys leaving from clients means you've got more execution to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I in the right direction there?
think so. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like it's more like I'm getting pulled out of my
Your your
strategy.
freewheeling creativity.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But I also am trying to make like find the pattern, right? Like so before it would just be like, okay, let's just go do a bunch of stuff to fix the problem. But I'm also trying to get like signs from the universe of like, why is this so hard? Like why like are there things I'm supposed to be pruning right now? Should we be building a better system? Like is something broken here?
Well, that's a obviously something's energetically, things are not right
Yeah.
energetically. Um, and the problem with it, as I see it from what I've heard, is, you know, it's taking you from the penthouse down to the outhouse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and with the realization of, hey, these things need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And there's no clear path in front of you with any of it. There's no resolution. There's no there's no timeline on it.
Yeah. I guess I'm just sitting in it and
Right.
it's not clear to me what the when it's gonna resolve. So
It's going to resolve when you put a plan on it.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's good first to separate it that way. You
Yeah.
know, um, the just as an aside, I don't want to go in there, but we've been talking about all of your possibilities of the new programs, the $5,000 program and all that.
Yeah.
And you've been searching for answers there and didn't have them. But you see, there's nothing in there that's executionable other than the fact that you need to find some clarity, right?
Yeah.
And so these things are executionable and can't be put off. Something needs to be done with them.
Okay.
You see that difference there? They're
Yeah.
short-term fires.
Yeah. The short term fires. Yeah. Okay.
Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm off because like I wanna have like you're right, the plan. And I'm not sure what the plan is. So I mean like the people leaving, we'll talk about that on Friday. I have an idea for like, people are coming here and apparently the Argentinians are saying we're not giving them opportunity. And so what like occurred for me is like, when you join a corporation, like you enter as a junior, then you get promoted after a year and that you get a 1.5% bump. Like I feel like maybe these Argentinians, they need sort of a path, junior after a year and then associate and then senior. So anyway, like that I'll talk to the exec team about that. It could also mean like maybe Argentina is not our place. Well fit. Um, yeah, I think I just need to tell Joe and Shay like, hey, I feel like this is a time suck now, and like let's give it back and see what that looks like. I mean, the only thought, I guess the fear in that is, they put 100,000 in, so it's like if I come to them and say like I'm not ready to, I'm like done driving, how are they going to feel about that? Maybe that's
Yeah,
the
let's talk about that.
yeah.
I wouldn't go from that angle.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about time, like, right? Like the opportunity cost. That's how I'd frame it. Like the opportunity cost of me keeping well fit. Also, too, the agency's up. I looked at the P&L. The agency's upside down. So even though we pay um, Media O like $7,500 a month, um, the agency's still upside down with the amount of time going into it. And then I think next month, Bill, like we're not going to be able to pay. It's not going to make sense to pay Media O. So now the reason why I see that as like, unless like who's going to work on it now? So essentially, we're just going to try to milk it, and then if we just let it coast and milk it, there's no way we're paying fortune builders back. So kind of like, what's the point? Like, let's hand it back.
Um, the way I would approach it with Joe and Shay is through a story of we've been in this loop talking about WeltFit,
Yeah,
and it always seems to get set aside because there's so many other things going on.
it's good. Yeah, it's true.
We've talked about bringing in partners, um, using it as a resource for current clients, or even giving it back, kind of like, you throw that out as a distant third.
Yeah,
Um, and there, the problem here is there's too many pieces in the overall company floating around in different directions.
yeah,
Um, there's not a clear, firm commitment moving forward towards a target.
yeah,
There's too many interruptions to that
yeah,
on all sides in Medio.
yeah,
And WealthFit's getting caught by that.
yeah,
Um, and so you could certainly go after them for clarity and commitment of what they're willing to do with WealthFit.
yeah.
And part of that discussion is giving it back
Okay.
and discussing, you know, does lost opportunity outweigh opportunity potential?
Yeah, yeah,
Because once you make a commitment with it, you can deal with it.
yeah,
Without a commitment, the only thing you can create is confusion.
yeah.
I mean, it's like that simple. And it
Okay.
sucks. Once you have commitment on it, then you boom, here's
Yeah,
here's where we are, here's what we're doing, here's what's happening. Uh and I think the conversation turns in that area, Dustin, around potential versus lost opportunity because of time.
yeah,
Which way does it weigh? The
yeah.
money that's been put in doesn't matter,
Okay.
okay? Because that can be made up for,
Yeah,
right? And hey, that's business. Get used to it.
yeah,
Sometimes you bite the bear, sometimes the bear bites you.
yeah,
It's just the way it is.
yeah,
You're not going to do everything perfectly. And the question is, if you give it back and there's that money is gone, um, where are the other current opportunities that are going to help uh
yeah,
5, 10, or 50x
yeah.
the increase? What are your thoughts on all of that?
I think it's great. Yeah, that's it. That's the way.
But what's going on overall is an absence of clarity and commitment.
Yeah.
Where's the $5,000 deal at now?
Oh, I'm moving that forward. So I mean, pretty soon it's going to start to get even more intense. So
What do you have? What's your clarity on it now? Because there wasn't any when we spoke.
yeah. So right now I'm forcing clarity. What does what does that mean?
Oh,
It
that's
means
good.
right. Like I am working with our copywriter, and so we had a couple conversations. I've worked with the copywriter. We have some scripts, and so what are we doing? We're going after capital raisers, and basically we made some promises. We've got some scripts ready, and later today we have a meeting with our coach in that process. And so that's where Joe and Shay, they're just so slammed. So I'm taking lead on this with the copywriter, and we're at the point where we've got scripts. So we have decisions to make. So like basically if the coach says, hey, these look good, I like them, then, we're going to move forward. If not, that's fine, but it's going to force, can we make that claim? Do we want to promise that? So I am moving us there. So I don't, I can't say that we have 100% clarity, Bill, on it,
No,
but
you don't that, and you won't. You've got to go to proof of concept.
yeah, that's my
That's the
goal is
whole
to,
purpose of it now.
yeah.
You've got to
So
get
that,
in
yeah,
and see, because this is why when we talked about it, I was talking about the different pieces of the deal and who it is you want to work with, and how the structure and all of those things.
yeah,
And that's what's going to shake out of the proof of concept.
yeah,
Is there clarity in what it needs to do for you? In other words, I think the biggest thing with this is the financial avatar. And
well, I heard two different, oh, go ahead.
when I say financial avatar, um, the conversations that I've heard up to this point have been too much on the lower end structure, and by lower end, it's the term plumbers and places like that, which
Yeah,
it's not a fit with what you're doing. You need that financial avatar that we need to be working with businesses of this size, quote unquote.
yeah. I feel like there's a middle ground. So we can't have the
Yeah.
newbie plumber. And then I don't think we're for this price point, we're ready for sophistication. So what I've determined with some of the clients we
I would
have right
agree.
now,
Sophistication is what you should be bringing to the party.
yeah, and it's crazy to think about this. I mean, I guess I operated Speaking Empire this way, but there's this middle ground of guys that like really aren't that savvy marketing wise, um, and sales wise, Bill. Like this is the big opportunity for them and for us. Like we're going to generate these leads. So we have two clients right now. We're generating leads, but I don't think they're running their floor right. Like I think what's missing in this space is like
The ability to close the deals.
and track them. It's sales floor management. So one guy right now,
Fascinating.
yeah, one guy right now, he comes from like the family office world, right? So those are like big checks, and now he's the guy at this retail shop, and I get the sense that like it's babysitting, which it is. Like you've got to manage their metrics, you've got to do sales training, you got to do motivation, and so anyway, like so the
See, this is
opportunity,
this is
yeah,
answering, this is filling in on what I've just said,
yeah,
is when I said financial avatar.
yeah,
In other words, you need to be making enough money to provide that kind of support.
yeah.
It
I
isn't
mean,
just about the structure. It isn't just about the operating machine with which they track everything.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge upsell opportunity. So like I think we get them in the door through, hey, we're going to put appointments on your calendar. And then they're going to have a new problem, which is we've got these appointments, but we're not closing deals or we're not. Yeah. So,
I think that, and do you want them signed up, even though when you look at it, you'll be bringing them a lot more deals that they won't be able to close?
I mean, no, like I never feel great about that. Like I want everyone to buy the Cadillac. Like this is actually what you need, but not everyone is in a position to do that. So, like I do know they need leads, right? Like they need appointments. Okay, great. Let's provide that to them. But if they don't get their shit together, then, they're going to burn out, right? So to your point, like how do we do that? And it's actually re-hitting me. It's like that coaching element. So like coaching them, not doing it for them, but like coaching them on like, okay, great, speed to lead. How many, what was your connector, all that stuff. So what's interesting is I think I'm that guy to do that because I'm going through the training right now and that's where the opportunity I think is, Bill. Like, we've said
Yeah.
this for years.
Why not have uh an I don't know how to describe this. I'm going to call it a third party sales team. Um, and that would be a backup team when the metrics, because you'll be able to examine the metrics of their sales team. Hey, we gave you
Yeah,
200 leads and you guys, you closed 4% of them or whatever. Uh, where you have a backup sales team that knows how to close deals.
I
Uh,
think that's phase two for us. I think right now, like we said this when I joined media. Oh, it's like, man, because we had this issue before. Like we always struggle with sales management and those guys like getting to the leads and all that. So like for years we've said, man, I wish we had an operator that was like a sales floor manager, and we just haven't been able to find that. And so like, Joe and Shay have had a couple guys that they're like, oh, this would be great. We have some conversations, but it's kind of like one of those things of like, well, we can't pay that guy 250 grand. You know what I mean? So like to start, right? It's so unproven and no one's willing to play it, like, oh, look at
yeah.
this opportunity. So, I mean, it could exist out there. We could look harder, but
But
I
anyway,
think,
again, you got to go through the proof of concept, but keep in
yeah,
mind um, that there's financial parameters that are going to determine all of this.
yeah, yeah,
It isn't about the system because
yeah,
systems are easy to put in place. Um,
yeah,
it's it's their capability or capacity um, to really move up.
yeah, yep, yeah,
So I mean, when you add that, throw that on top of the other things that are smoldering, there's a lot of non-clarity here.
yeah. Maybe that's why
Well, that
the
is
lack
why.
of clarity, the lack of clarity in those areas, people resigning. Um, yeah, I mean, that's just business. So,
And that lack of clarity would create people resigning too. That energy,
mm, yeah,
the undercurrent of it.
yeah,
And Joe and Shay have been in that space for a while now.
yeah. What's interesting that's hitting me? I think I've been thinking a lot about fortune builders, and the reason why we read this book called something traction, maybe that's what it was called, scaling. Anyway, they were now making the team do daily huddles, and I thought back to when I was living in the Pentagon, and I thought how Big Brother of a move that was. But I came to appreciate it because it like added clarity. It created
Right.
energy. And so we've made those shifts where like we're doing a daily huddle now, and then we have a scorecard. And one of the feedbacks, Bill, from Vika, like my former right hand, was she's like, starting in like January or February, we had this dashboard and we saw all these numbers that were red. And so like to them, they thought like business was down, like because we weren't communicating like, and so they made it mean like, it's not stable, our clients' metrics are red. Um, and so that was the feedback that she gave me on the way out. And so it's interesting because I feel like, Media O used to be something, and now we're kind of getting to like fortune builders, right? Like we're putting in these systems, we're improving visibility, we're improving communication, um, and I guess that's weeding some people out, and that's okay. Like that's completely fine. It's just funny how I used to myself mentally uh, fight these things. at Fortune Builders, and now I appreciate them, right?
Right.
It's kind of a full circle duality sort of thing. So um, I think we're in the process of ironing out some of that clarity, and I feel like maybe this is that year, right? We're kind of like naturally coming up with the system that Fortune Builders not designed, but like this other guy put it forth, and so we're naturally arriving there. And I'm telling you this because I think we still have some more clarity to get as a company.
Well, I think that I believe the challenge now, um, is Joe and Shay not stepping up, and like with WealthFit just getting really, here's plan A, B, or C.
You
And
know what
that's
it
it.
is, Bill? I think we're trapped. So let me take a step back and just explain it. So yesterday we're on this meeting. It's like 5 o'clock. My mind's spent, but we need to determine who's going to be the lead strategist at Trading with the Pros, the new client. So like everyone has like a scenario, and one of the scenarios Shay put forth is like, hey, I could like if I got a strong project manager, I could step in because it's live event. So Shay like, and they would love it, right? So Shay's like, hey, I will do that. I will be a strategist. And then he gave another scenario, which is like, hey, I can take over tax lien code. I'm already working with them a lot. And they would love that. And then we can move Alex over there. And I said to Shay, I'm like, man, I really appreciate you rolling up the sleeves, but I don't know if I want my CEO as a strategist. And
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right?
yeah,
Because of
yeah,
the absence of overall commitment,
yeah,
it starts chipping away at the foundation.
yeah,
And then you get, um, and like, absolutely great idea. Yeah, he can do that. But how does
yeah,
that play into the overall picture?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Um,
not good. Yeah,
right. It's the waffling, and that energy is trouble. I mean,
yeah.
it's the only way you can, no commitment, you have chaos and confusion, and that energy is felt all throughout the organization.
It's interesting. I mean, this is probably a little ego speaking, but like I feel like I am the savior. So I feel like Joe and Shay are kind of trapped running the machine, right? Like Joe's running Aspire, like because we're high full service and we've tried, Bill, like we've tried to like find a stud person to come in and run. Um, but it's always I won't say always failed, but like generally like they have to step back in. And so I kind of feel like that's why we want not I feel like that's why we want to create the $5,000 a month where it's like, yeah, no, they're not getting full service. It's an assembly line type thing. We're making cakes, color cake you want. And so that's
But once again, and I agree with you, but when you look at that, and whatever it is, we're calling it $5,000 a month.
yeah,
Um, Once the structure's determined,
yeah,
it's the structure that runs that business.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's, it's like, when my daughter was a real gypsy and went out and traveled around the world for a while with this rich woman. And I mean, just, it was pretty crazy. And she ended up getting pregnant and ended up in Hawaii, where she still is. But when she got there, I mean, her life was just a mess.
Yeah.
And it's to the point that I thought I was going to be raising my granddaughter. I mean, literally, it was that bad. I was
Okay.
watching very, very carefully. And because I didn't know if she had the capacity to establish herself with any sort of foundation. And then
Yeah.
she called me one day and said, and there's a reason I'm telling you this story. She called me one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to go back to school." And at the time she was 35, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to the University of Hawaii in the Bachelor of Fine Arts program." I said, "That's fantastic." And she said, "Wow, for some reason, I didn't think you'd respond that way. I thought you'd be upset or something." I said, "No,
Huh.
no." I said, "I will give you some financial support. You have to commit to finish and graduate."
Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah, and I said, "Okay, here's the deal. I don't care if you get out of there with a D minus. You're going to have a foundation. You no longer have control of your life. You are on the University of Hawaii's schedule now.
Yeah.
And you have the same thing here with this $5,000. The thing that makes it run is going to be the system."
Yeah. Exactly.
And so what you're doing is kind of backing into a commitment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of that, she went to school. She had to take care of her daughter. She was still doing some work. And because I said, when you graduate, Teresa, you're going to have a tremendous foundation in under you to live life. And
Yeah.
I don't care about your degree. I want you to have the foundation. And so that's what's missing here for you guys is that foundation is not here.
Well, I'm the builder of it, right?
Well, no, you've got the overall media. Oh,
Well,
you got,
yeah.
and media. Oh, if you don't get a handle on it, they can grab the dog by the tail and they'll be swinging it around in the air
Yeah.
doing this, because there's behaviors going on here that are repetitive, that aren't, that are, um, they aren't frantic, but they're searching,
Yeah.
but they aren't concrete and committed,
Yeah.
right? And I think it must be the energy, the baseline energy that these guys have had from the past doing some of the big deals they did, where it was a little more freewheeling.
Yeah.
I think that's what's corroding this. So, you're the most important thing for you is really like nailing down some small pieces of clarity with them
Yeah.
where they're committed.
Well, let's wrap a little. I feel like there is a commitment. I feel like they committed to the coaching program that we're pursuing, which that was a level of commitment. We financially made an investment, and then
It was it
you know,
was it was an investigative step, not a commitment.
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because
And
you
then
keep commit
yes,
to something you don't know how it's going to come down. And they said, I mean, it was good
yeah,
because there's,
yeah,
from the standpoint of stepping up in a what I would call a strong direction. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not disputing that, but there's no commitment yet.
Okay.
Like
So how do I help them commit?
well, you can't, with this $5,000 program,
Yeah,
you can't stand here right now and say for certain you're going to do it.
that's fair. I guess. Yeah, until we run an ad, right? Until
Yeah,
money.
you got to do
Yeah,
your proof of concept.
Yeah.
See? And so because of that, they're kind of all over the board in looking at the channels they could be in with it.
Yeah.
Where if they said, no, we're going into the financial market, we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
We'll do whatever we need to do to turn a profit there. Here's where we see where we can get the profit.
Yeah.
Let's go straighten that out and be committed to it. But that's not happening because there's not a commitment up on the MEDIO side. And the reason
Okay.
there's not a commitment on the MEDIO side is they found out that the company isn't as saleable as they thought it was. And so it's causing this waffling, wavering, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah. Okay.
And it seems to be, if you look at their pattern of behavior over the long run, it seems to be it's like they haven't battened down the hatches for the long run, right?
Yeah.
They're looking, they were doing the Tony and Dean deal, checking that out. That didn't
Yeah.
work last year, doing this, doing that. And it's just that behavior is continuing,
Yeah.
which the behavior and doing those things don't matter, but there's no overall commitment.
Okay.
So, you're asking what you can do. It's nail down whatever little commitments you can get, start taking them
Okay.
through the exercise of firmly committing to something.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, totally. I'm on the right path. So I keep putting a meeting on the calendar. We keep meeting with our coach. Coach gives us homework. I keep doing the homework, pulling people as needed. And then I keep marching them down. So every meeting is a micro commitment. Every yeah, this looks good is a micro commitment until we take it to proof of concept. So I think I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Right. In terms of the $5,000 deal,
Yep. Yep.
but it's not happening with everything else.
Well, I don't know what you mean. I mean, what I feel, I still feel the same way. Like I'm leading the
Well,
charge.
I think WealthFit's a good example.
Okay, that is a good example.
And what I want you to see there
That
is
is a
the
great
energy of it, Dustin.
Yeah.
And that energy seeping into other areas with them. It's the way they do business.
Okay.
It's not bad. It just could be better.
Yeah.
And it does create what you refer to as heaviness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting, because I thought it was my when I wrote that stuff on the board and I said, "Oh, this is silly." I guess the intent or energy behind it was like, why am I perceiving like it was almost like it was my fault? Like, why do I feel this way? In a
Because
way, I hear
you
you
want
saying
commitments.
yeah, yeah, it's not my fault. Um, that's a good observation. But I don't want to be flippant and say it's not my fault.
Well, I think that you can focus. The old saying is the shit flows downhill. And I think that stuff's getting handed off to you.
Yeah.
And I think you might even be jumping in to grab some of it, which you want to be careful of.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that anything that you get your hands on, you get total clarity from them.
Mm, that's solid right there.
Like, okay, so you've given me this information about straightening out this stuff with Argentina.
Yeah.
What where do you want me to take this? What's the clarity on this? So
Yeah.
then I can get it handled. And are you being given things where you don't have the authority to make the final decision? So it's just something that's kind of tossed into your corral that's just poking at you.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to look at that and examine it. I don't feel like I don't have decision making ability. Like I said, I feel like these guys are trapped and they're looking for someone to step up. They're looking for the answer. Um,
Yeah, but the trap is the absence of commitment. You're not trapped when you have a commitment.
yeah. Man, I still feel like I can be at cause though. It's like if I was a rainmaker, Bill, I am a rainmaker. A rainmaker brings an
Hold
idea
it.
and
Yeah, but
aligns people.
no, I'm not buying this at all.
Why?
Well, because as far like WealthFit again is a perfect example.
I love we keep coming back to wealth.
Well, but it energetically,
Yeah,
it completely shows the whole situation.
yeah,
You all went into it equally.
yeah,
Everybody bought into it, but nothing's being done to deal with it.
yeah,
There's no finality with it.
yeah,
And just look at the energy of that. And part of it is, hey, there's other things going on, there's other things happening. It's all
yeah,
I get it, okay? But there's that point in time where you got to grab something by the balls and make a decision
yeah,
and move forward.
yeah,
It's not even a choice, it's a decision because it's final.
yeah,
And it's like, here's what we're doing with that. I mean,
yeah,
one of the things that's been on, is potentially finding some partners in that, but that story's been happening for a while
yeah,
and nothing's happening.
yeah,
And the reason nothing's happening is because there's no way to fit it into the overall picture. There's no overall picture.
yeah,
Media O is doing its thing. Um, and the new monkey wrench in the spokes is when they found out that the company isn't as saleable as they thought it was.
yeah,
And the company's never going to be that saleable unless they come up with a commitment of how they're going to do that, right?
yeah, yeah,
So, and I'm just, walking through the overall scenario here. So,
yeah, yeah,
yes, you have the opportunity to be the hero here with this $5,000 deal,
yeah,
but only if you nail it black and white.
yeah,
If you don't nail it black and white, it's going to be the tail and get whipped around based
yeah,
upon whatever other, like for instance, today they could hear from somebody and some big deal could come in and that would change everything.
yeah. I mean, it would. You're right.
Yeah. And that's what's happening. And like, hey, it's cool to operate that way when things are good.
Yeah,
It isn't that things are bad, but it's the absence of it's you're in the gap, you're in the middle, And it's the energy that's eroding things, not poor business or anything like that. It's just the
Yeah.
energy of a lack of target and commitment.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
So, your assignment is you nail down crystal clear commitment with him so that, and even if it's, you've got this coach in there with you in what you're looking at on the $5,000 deals,
Yep.
which is good because he's bringing that level of commitment in what's next,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. It's great. Yeah.
So there's your answer temporarily.
Okay.
You're not going to get the answer from Joe and Shay, you're going to get it from the coach.
Yeah.
And it's like this, it's like, what's his name?
Aaron.
Okay. It's Aaron. What does this mean? And what exactly do you want to see at that level to know that this is right?
Yeah.
So you have this crystal clear, you bring it in, you throw it on the table, and he says, "No, man," I said, you got to bring in a pony and you got a muskrat. This ain't going to work, right?"
Yeah. Yep.
And that forces Joe and Shay's hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see the difference there?
Yeah.
And you just got to get anything that they're doing. What does that mean? What does it look like? What are you wanting to accomplish, even though you don't have the overall picture? What
Yeah.
are you wanting to accomplish with it at this stage?
Yeah. I mean, I think for anything, it's just get to proof of concept. It's interesting when you shared that. I don't think Shay's wrong here, but it's like he's dragging his feet. So he keeps saying, guys, we're going to do all this work and effort. And, his concern is capital raising is not a big enough space. And the thought is, well, you might be right, but we won't know until we go to market. And so, yeah, it's this lack of commitment, right? Because, like, listen, it might be the wrong
And
space, but
so again, I want to interrupt you real quick.
yeah, yeah,
That's the wrong perspective for him to be looking at it. Okay. That
yeah,
that capital raising isn't a big enough space. And the reason it's wrong is because we aren't concerned about that at this moment.
right,
What we're concerned about is the general proof of concept and the machine.
yeah,
And capital raising is the easiest space for you guys to access and get more information now. Is that true?
yeah, yep, yeah,
So that's the essence of that next step.
yeah,
And he's right. Maybe it isn't a big enough space, but that doesn't matter because you don't know the working parts.
yeah. That's perfect, Bill.
Once you have the working parts and you're in there, and it's like you're
Yeah,
going to find things that you're going to go, "Oh, wow, this is great." You're going to find other things and go, "Oh, man, that sucks." And you're going to look at
yeah,
it and then you're going to say, "Okay," because you do have nailed the difference in how the business is going to be run with the structure, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's what you're after here.
yeah,
So then once you've figured that out, the next question is, where is it? What channels do you need to go in with that type of structure to make the money you want to make? But the structure's running the whole thing,
yeah,
and at that point, it might be plumbers.
right, right.
But at this point, what it's really about is see what happens in the capital raising space.
Yeah. You say it so much better and with conviction, because intuitively I'm in alignment with that. I've said that not as eloquently as you. I haven't had commitment, right, to be able to speak that as clearly as you have. But I've been taking the same actions that you just described. Like, we just got to go get some shit thrown on the wall.
And the reason the reason you're having problems with that perception and this heaviness is the
Yeah.
absence of the overall commitment. It's the energy.
Okay.
See? It's the
Yeah.
other stuff that's seeping in that's causing this confusion. So
Okay.
I agree with you 100%, but you're not standing up enough and saying, no, this is boom. Here's what I'm doing, and
Yep.
and that's it. And you bring that to the table for Joe and Shay.
Yeah, and what's coming to mind is a story. Like when they started this agency, they committed to themselves. They would not, because they came from live events, were not doing live events. And so in the same way, like you guys didn't get here without pivoting, right? You took action and you signed up
Right.
whoever the first clients were. But then look, events, like it became obvious that you did it, but you didn't, if you weren't on the field, you weren't going to get anything. So I think that's a story that I can share with them that'll land. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, like I think you're understanding it now, So your place to shine is not in the success of moving that forward.
yeah,
It's in the definition and clarity of the discussion and the commitment.
yeah,
That's where you become the real hero.
yeah,
Because then it gives you an opportunity to kick back on something and say, hey, wait, we had this commitment here. Now you're saying this.
yeah,
And that's just, it's not, it's just kind of the way it is. It isn't that they're bad guys or they're doing bad things.
no,
You just get, there's just a lot going on.
I feel like they're trapped, right? Like they're. It's easy to get caught up, right? Like I don't think they're bad guys. I just didn't know. Uh,
Well, but you see, trapped is absence of commitment.
yeah, okay,
You're not trapped when you have a plan. You have a direction,
right,
right? And there's an absence of that direction right now.
yeah,
And so with that, then, like I'm sure with this new client that you guys just got,
yeah,
it puts your perspective more in survival mode than it does thriving.
yeah. It does. Yeah,
You see how the energy flows with it?
yeah,
The energy is what tells the truth.
yeah,
The rest of it's just a bunch of stories.
yeah,
And the stories never make sense, ever.
yeah.
But the energy does.
Okay.
And it just goes back to the way the whole thing got started. And for them to do what they want to do to get accomplished, they've got to have a target, and they're searching for one right now.
Yeah. Agree.
What other questions?
No, I think that's good.
So ultimately, I agree with you. You're doing all the right things. But you've got to avoid this cloudiness and heaviness and put it over in the corner.
Yeah.
And be able to discern what's part of that heaviness and cloudiness,
Yeah.
and what's part of what the commitment is.
Yeah, I guess that's a question for maybe next time is like, right, like I have this cognition, something is heavy. How do I get to, without Bill, how do I get to heaviness to like the clarity that we've taken an hour to get right on this call.
Well, if it's heavy, it's telling you that it's not part of a commitment.
Okay.
Like it's heavy because you don't know what to do with it.
Mhm. Yeah, but that heaviness manifests as you've heard me say this before. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. So I don't feel like well, I guess it all goes back to the energy, right? But the physical is like people are resigning and wealth, it's a mess, and like this over here and that over here. That's like, okay, something's heavy. And then I wrote on the board, what are all the things that are heavy, right? Like I started going through that process. But obviously I didn't arrive where we've arrived at this point.
Yeah, so you've got things that are heavy, you get them on the board, and then
Yeah.
you move them around by priority.
Yeah.
And you go, what are the top 3 that need to be taken care of?
Yeah.
And you get committed on those, chase them down and get them done.
Okay.
Um, and again, it's like this stuff is landing in your yard,
It is.
and which means you're not speaking and taking care of yourself in these other meetings because it isn't landing in anybody else's yard. If it was, they'd be talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a trap of mine.
Right. And so that's, that's part of your need to be a hero.
Yeah.
It's obligations would come in here.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's like, I'll tell you, it would all end if you only speak from a place of clarity and commitment.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because if it comes to you and it can't be a commitment, you kick it back.
Yeah.
So you like, I need to know exactly what you want done with this.
Yeah.
Where are we going with it? There's too much, tennis going on with some of these subject matters. They're just getting hit back and forth
Yeah.
instead of just grabbing them and taking care of them.
Yeah. That's good. That's a great reminder.
And
Great
so,
reminder.
there you're creating this.
Yep.
We're talking about Joe and Shay and the way they work, but the fact of the matter is you're creating this.
Yeah, I mean, here's the story I'm telling. The story is I'm the chief revenue officer. So anything related to revenue, which is anything in the business, right? You got people leaving the company. Well, that's a revenue function, right? Because whatever, right? The
It's a
story.
human resources function.
Well, but if I can't go sign like 3 or 4 clients, again, this is the story because I'm not supposed to go sign big event clients, right? I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, but you're not Superman. You're not running every department in the company.
Well, I'm the president, Bill. I'm a president in training right now, baby. Everything
Yeah,
stops with the president.
there's this thing called delegation.
I know.
And, and again, it's where you're being the president, where you speak to somebody and you're not being clear enough to tell them to take care of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because it's the other thing that would trap you is your creation.
Yeah. It is.
Your ability and desire to have a lot of plates spinning around you.
Yeah.
It's a natural way that you think and that you work. But in this situation,
Yeah.
the problem is The creation doesn't do you, look, if you go stand in the corner and paint an abstract, that's cool. We don't need abstracts here though,
Uh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
And so your creation gets in the way there.
Okay.
Where, when you're out freewheeling it, looking for clients, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to boom, like that all works. Like that's freewheeling it. That's cool. But you're
Yeah.
looking for clients. This is shit that needs to be done.
Yeah.
I'm doing like it's interesting because people sucker you into it.
Yeah.
I'm doing a series, a new book series that I'm writing right now. It's pretty exciting, but I've got this place they're going to do the covers and lay the books out for me and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Guy sends me an email this morning. He says, okay, well, I've got this, but we aren't doing anything until we're getting paid, and I'm thinking to myself, then send me a fucking invoice. What I got to beg you to send you money? I mean, how are you running your company? Say, okay, yeah, we'll do the covers. I need $500 from you or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I'm going, well, this is a peculiar way to do business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And this is
Yeah.
what happens with people. So
Yeah.
you want to just kind of take a look at the energy that Joe and Shay are moving with, and anything that comes into Dustin's world, you need clarity and commitment.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're handing me this. What does this mean? What am I taking this to? And
Yeah.
when you're with that, you can practice with that coach today. Okay.
Yeah.
What's our next level of clarity with this?
Yeah.
He's giving you things to do. It's like, okay, we're going to do this. What does that mean? How does it end up? What is it?
Yeah.
Right? Where you nail him down, he should be able to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, if it was me and seeing the situation and coaching something like that, I'd be saying, okay, here's something I know we can get. Here's the information we can get. Let's just get to that information,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Okay.
Because once you got that information, what's the key information you're looking for that's going to help give you more information? And again, on this, the thing that's really been askew with this is the scattered energy, rather than saying, okay, let's go get 3 financial companies and do it for them
Yeah.
and evaluate,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, yeah, I don't care what the deal is. I don't care what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We need answers. And the only way we're going to get answers is by getting them on.
Yeah.
Here's what we think at this time. We don't know how valid our thoughts are. We don't know how valid this information is.
Yeah.
We don't know how valid it is as far as wanting to build a company up and bring on hundreds of these. And that's the, for us, we can go pick some cherries out there.
Yeah.
Which means we can get it's the fastest place we can get the information. And the issue after it isn't the number of financial companies that are there. The issue is, what's the structure?
Yeah.
That's what you're after. Because once you have that structure, then you can identify the channels.
Yeah.
So the fact that it isn't just financial people doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. What matters is, what's the structure going to be? That's the big thing right now.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. I'm in agreement.
So what's your takeaway here?
Um, well, obviously clarity.
I'm glad we got
That's-
AI notes on this.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing is, I think really just speaking up. Like I'm on the right path. I feel I'm just not communicating it as effectively as I could be to Shay. You know, maybe old Dustin might say it's a differing point of view. It's contrarian. It's combative, but it's that.
No, it's just clarity and commitment.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
if you have a mutual commitment and clarity of what that is
yeah,
and a timeline that goes with it, we want this by this time. We'll talk about it again next week.
yeah,
Hey, went out, did it, did this and this and this. We're shut down there. What's the next? Where's the next commitment we want to look at with this?
yeah,
You don't need the overall answer. The heaviness comes because you got a sack of shit over your shoulders and you're crawling down the road dragging it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then my other takeaway is delegation.
And
Trying,
again,
not being the hero, not being creative. You know, like trying to be creative, filling that need, that desire.
yeah, this is just about getting stuff done. Right?
Yep.
Um, you know, I hired that company, by the way, in England,
Oh, okay. Yep.
and they've responded. They've been fantastic so far. Fantastic. And simultaneously came up with, and I'm doing this, I don't know if I told you, the Align Life series
Yep. Yeah.
of 9 books.
Yep.
And 2 are written. The third one will be finished this weekend.
That's nuts.
Right.
So cool. Yeah.
And talking to the publisher, a guy who's going to put them together, brought a woman in that's an editor who's really good. And I just gave her a piece of the action. I said, she's like, that sounds like a lot. I said, no, I want this quality on this. I want you fully engaged. Right.
Yeah.
And this is just a 9-book series, and we'll take it and run with it. And whatever it is, that's what you make.
Yeah.
If you do more, and it works, we'll do a lot more.
Yeah.
And then brought on 2 more VAs, all of which I don't know how to run. However, I know what I'm getting accomplished this week to get the clarity.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I only have to go one step at a time.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all I have to do is that one step at a time and just
Okay.
let it come together.
Yeah.
In fact, I've decided now what came to me this morning. It's interesting. Like with the books are really, I'll send you one of the manuscripts. It's really good.
Okay.
I mean,
Sweet.
really good. But this morning, it just hit me as like, oh my God, these are being completely focused at women that do yoga.
Interesting. Okay.
And the market is 22 million people in the US.
Holy
22
smokes.
million women. I researched it this morning. See,
Yeah.
this clarity just came. And that's my commitment. There's 42,000 yoga studios in the US.
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm doing with these books. There's going to be women doing yoga poses on the covers. Like I'm going, that's the market. Like,
Yep. Yep.
this all just kind of came to the books I put together because of my content.
Yeah.
And the name from the content, but the pictures kind of evolved from that. And the pictures came up. The first one is a woman in a yoga outfit with her arms outstretched. You see her back on a mountain, and she's wearing, the Lululemon outfit. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, well, and then it was like, oh, interesting, women doing yoga. Now that would be interesting. And so boom, there it is. So,
Yeah.
and And then there's another 35 million women that speak Spanish. And I can convert the books to Spanish so simply, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
But you
totally.
see, but again, this is like, I'm going back to your $5,000 units,
Yeah,
is you've got to let the clarity evolve.
yeah,
And then you can go, you'll go to the commitment, you'll find it. We don't know the answer. The answer doesn't matter now.
yeah,
What matters is like, what's the next level, the next step?
yeah,
And so this morning when I talked to the guy who's going to put the books together, it's like, no, here's the market I'm going after. Here's what I'm doing. Here's the pictures I want on the covers. You work with them, make them better. It's just,
yeah.
and that's the commitment. That's the track.
Got it.
And that's what will happen with what you're doing. But what they're doing now is they aren't looking as much at the structure. And the key, I said, is finances for the finances are more important because you want to sell the company. And yeah, maybe it is less financial, guys, but maybe there's enough there and enough money to be made that it stabilizes everything.
Yeah,
It could be.
yeah,
We don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Do we think so? We have no idea. There's a possibility. The one thing I do know is you get in that market real easy.
yeah,
So it's not a place where if you said, no, we're going to go out and talk to plumbers first, I'd be going, oh man, no, do not do that.
yeah,
Go where you're known and where it's the easiest
yeah,
to get the information that you want. That's what you're after, because that information then helps give you clarity.
yeah,
And then that clarity lets you nail down the commitment.
yeah. Sweet.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
I'll send the notes to you. If anything
Thank you,
comes up
sir.
during the week again, you have questions, like I'm around. So
Okay.
let me know.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Thanks,
All right.
Bill.
Appreciate you, Dustin.
All
Bye-bye.
right. See ya.